Today we saw the stocks get into the gaps and come crashing lower. And I've been warning you guys about this. Stocks are going to continue to fall lower. Now, here in just a bit, Trump is going to be announcing something. And is this about to be a big market moving event? Now, we come over and look at the fear and greed index. Right now, we're sitting at 28. We are still stuck in fear. We've been stuck between fear and extreme fear for almost the entire year, going all the way back to about the middle of December. We've only been up in the neutral 3 times. Now, as we come over and look at how the indices fared across the board, the Dow was down 132 points. The Nasdaq was down 372 points. S&P 500 down 64 points, and the Russell 2000 down 2.17. We come over and look at advancing issues versus declining. We had 70.4% of issues declining on the day. Then as we come over and look at the sectors across the board, consumer defensives, energy, and real estate utilities were the only sectors in the green. Every other sector was in the red. Technology by far outpacing everything else to the downside. When we come over and look at the king of AI, we see NVIDIA. NVIDIA is still holding below that anchor VWAP and looking like it may be about to come down, flush lower, and take out this most recent swing low. Now, we look at this first article right here. Top EU officials expect Trump's tariffs of about 20%. And again, this is what kind of sparked some of the sell-off this afternoon, because when we come over and look at the S&P 500, that sell-off really started to accelerate even more so going into the afternoon. Yes, I know ever since the opening bell, the market was down, and down a little bit more. Then this is pretty comical out here. We've talked about this before, but we've been hearing Jay Powell talk about the word transitory in terms of inflation. Transitory is back as the Fed doesn't expect tariffs to have long-lasting inflation impacts. Now, let me know if you agree with this article right here, because today we heard from another Fed official which worries that inflation could cause higher tariffs that will not be transitory in nature. So again, who is going to be right? Even the Fed right now cannot even agree on what they believe in terms of inflation. Then we look right here, the S&P 500 hits a session low, down 1%. Ahead of new auto tariff announcements. And this is what Trump is going to be talking about supposedly around 4 o'clock as I'm recording this video. Maybe it'll go a little bit later. Maybe they'll wait until the futures markets are closed at 5. And depending on how the market receives what Trump is going to say, what is this going to do to the market? Are we about to have a massive gap lower? Or do you guys think it'll be a gap up higher once the future markets reopen up? Now, if we come over today and we take a look at the volatility index, the VIX, we see the VIX was up 7.06% on the day. And we can see right out of the gate, the VIX was up and away. Then the VIX finally starting to put in a lower high. We come over and look at the dollar index today. See, the dollar index had this spike up out here this morning. And we look at the news that we had coming out. Core durable good orders came out better than expected. 0.7 with a forecasted of 0.2. Durable good orders month over month came in at 0.9. They were expecting negative 1.1. So we had good economic data, and we see the dollar got a lot of strength after that. Now, if we come over and look at the precious metal gold real quick, what was gold doing out here today? If we look at the daily chart, basically just consolidating up here at these upper levels. Is gold getting ready to push on up higher? We come over and look at Tesla today, down also again. But keep in mind, a lot of these stocks and indices have this large gaping gap left behind from Monday. I think yesterday we warned about possible hanging man candles, and that's exactly what we had yesterday. And then today we actually get the confirmation of that hanging man candle out here on Tesla. Now, as we come over and look at the SPY real quick on the daily chart, the MACD indicator does have a bullish cross on the daily chart. However, this is the area I kept warning you guys about. Right in between that 38% retracement and maybe all the way up towards the 50% retracement, we could see the market either start to consolidate or start to pull back. And notice what we've gotten today. Here's that large gaping gap from Monday, and notice we were able to get into the gap today. Now, this morning on the live stream, I said the best case scenario, I thought maybe we'd get into that gap and then maybe reject back out. And today, we most certainly did get into that gap. Now, if you want to make sure you don't miss the next time I go live, make sure you're subscribed. You have the bell notifications turned on for all. Once again, we gave away another 50K Take Profit Trader account today on the live stream. We come over and start looking at the 4-hour chart. MACD indicator starting to get a little bit of a curl effect as it made it back towards the zero line. And again, we can see that large gaping gap. Now, if we do come down to try to fill the gap, I think we might overshoot it, making it towards that high volume node at about 560.23. Then as we come over and start looking at the 30-minute chart, MACD indicator has now been able to come back down below the zero line, and now it's starting to flatten out here just a bit. Now, the problem is we are essentially in the middle of that large gap for Monday. So do we just continue to sell off and go down there, or maybe bounce up a little bit, then go down, setting up some type of MACD divergence, and then ultimately start to get it buy back up? This is something we most certainly want to keep an eye on. Tomorrow, if we start trading below the lows of today, which also correlates with value area low, then I want to start pushing my targets down here for that gap to be filled. Then I also want to push targets right back over on the 4-hour chart to that high volume node that we just talked about right over here around 560 or so. Now, I want to remind everybody right now, Take Profit Traders having a 30% sale off all their valuation accounts, and best yet, no activation fee. If you want to take advantage of this offer, use the link in the description box down below. Use promo code epitome at checkout. Now, we come over and we look at the futures markets real quick, and we look at the 4-hour chart real quick. Notice we were not able to quite make it all the way up towards the minus development area or that other high volume area. Instead, we started the pullback, and notice we've already hit the 38% retracement. We hit the 50% level as well. Now, if I want to play devil's advocate real quick, could this be setting up a larger A to B equals C to D pattern that has a price projection all the way up here at 59.26? Or are we going to see a little bit of a deeper retracement out here? When we go ahead and we look left right here, notice we are very close towards getting into that gap that we set on Sunday night. Now, as we come over and start looking at the 30-minute profiles, I'm going to go ahead and mark off where that gap completion would be. That would be right down here. And if we look at where that gap actually started at, we can see the gap is about right there. We just barely missed getting into the gap today. Now, as I'm looking at this, you can see we have one heck of a minus development area here, a little minus development area within this area of the profile as well. So it's going to be very interesting tonight. Now, we were able to take out the P point today, like we talked about in last night's video, but along with the gap that we have below us, we also have this untested point of control down here about 56.99. Is the market about to make its way down there? Here's how I want to play this tonight. One, if we're staying above value area low, which comes in at 5143.00, then I want to go ahead and look for higher prices. One, we're already at this point of control, so the next target would be that minus development area, somewhere about 57.71 3/4. If we can push beyond that, then we can target this next high volume area of the profile, about 57.78. Then try to target this little minus development area right up in this area of the profile. That next minus development area be about 57.85 to about 57.91. Anything beyond that, I'd want to push targets all the way up here towards value area high at 58.06, which also correlates with a nice high volume area on this profile. Now, as we come over and look at the QQQs real quick, notice we had this anchor VWAP coming up here from this recent high. As it's come down, price came right up to that anchor VWAP, which also correlated with the 38% retracement. We had the ABC pattern completion right up here at about 492.20. And then today, you can see we started to get back into that gap. Now, on the daily chart, the MACD indicator is crossed to the upside. Then on the 4-hour chart, the MACD indicator is starting to get that roll effect right near the zero line. And we can see this a little bit more obvious on the 4-hour chart. You can see we got pretty deep into that gap today. Also, if we do come down and fill the gap, maybe we overshoot it and go towards this next high volume node at about 479.22. Then as we start looking at the 30-minute chart, notice the MACD indicator is below the zero line. So now we got to ask ourselves, do we start to get a little bit of retracement up, maybe even set up an ABC pattern down, which will complete lower, which could potentially come back, fill in the gap. Now, if we are going to start to retrace up, we might want to go ahead and pull our Fibonacci retracement from the swing high all the way down to the swing low. 38% retracement would be considered a minor retracement. More likely than not, we come to the 50 or even 61.8 Fibonacci retracement levels. Then we'll see if we get a turn at that area, then that would set up that A to B equals C to D pattern on the way down. Now, let's just go ahead and role play this out ahead of time. We have the A to B leg, which is the impulse leg down. If we went ahead and we only retraced to the 50% retracement, notice that would bring the fib well below filling the gap. And even if we made it to the 61 or even 78.6 level, then if that ABC pattern did get validated, that would still be enough to go ahead and fill the gap. Now, as we come over and look at the 4-hour charts real quick, notice today, one heck of a sell-off. We came right down to the 50% level. Then look at this last 4-hour candle that we have. Basically a candle of indecision. We have a wick on the top, wick on the bottom. I'm going to basically consider this a spinning top type of candle. So now the question is, is this candle part of a trap? Do they go ahead and try to push it lower and then they trap them and they run it back up? Maybe a quick flush right down towards filling the gap and then go ahead and run it back up. If that's going to be the case, then maybe we're going to set up some type of A to B equals C to D pattern. Now, if we go ahead and we assume that the low of today holds, look how high that would bring us, all the way up to about 20,972. If we come down, fill in the gap, that would be about 20,902. And then right down here towards last week's point of control, if we came down towards that area and then bounce, that would bring us all the way up to 20,791, which would be a massive move on the way up still. So again, we need to look for signs. Do we start to bounce, or do we simply consolidate and then maybe tomorrow start to break down and potentially fill that gap? Now, if you guys would like to see which prop firm is best, Apex Trader Funding or Take Profit Trader, make sure to watch this next video right here.